Welcome to the November 2024 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that Council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is acceptance of the conditions that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committees. I now open the November 2024 Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. Councillor Wells will now deliver the acknowledgement and welcome to country. Acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement, thank you. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respects to the elders past, present of the Wiradjuri Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal peoples from other nations who are present, and I would also extend that respect to all people who are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. We have a declared leave of absence. I'll now bring that forward. Item IPEC 24/49. We have a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Dickerson. Can I please have someone move that? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Any questions or debate, councillors? Oh, I've got to start the voting. Voting is open. Please vote.
Where do I do this?
Just put your hand up, Councillor Ivey, if you would. That's a vote for that. Councillor Ryan, if we got any... Councillor Ryan, are you able to vote on the screen?
I actually have the little yes, no there, but once we click, hang on, it's on the side. Confirm vote. Yep, it's just on the right hand side.
Oh, yeah, it's
Confirming
popped up.
vote.
Well done, thank you. I'll now close the voting. Motion carried. After all that, I'll now hand over to the Chief Executive Officer as the returning officer for the election of the chair, and I will vacate the chair back to my spot. Thank you. That'll be when you're up.
Councillors, in accordance with Clause 6.3 and 6.4 of Dubbo Regional Council Code of Meeting Practice, the election of the chair is to be conducted by myself as the returning officer. And I will conduct the election in this case. As returning officer, I will now accept nominations by show of hands. Councillor Chowdhury.
I'll nominate Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright. You accept that nomination, Councillor Wright?
I do, thank you, Mr. CEO.
Just a reminder, in committees, you don't have to have a seconder. That's a less formal occasion. So we have Councillor Wright. Can I have any other nominations, councillors?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Lucas Butler.
Councillor Butler. Do you accept Councillor Butler?
Yes.
Councillor Butler. Any further nominations, councillors? So I'll now just work through this process of, I now invite further nominations for the position of chair for this term. I ask for the first time, are there any more nominations for the position of chair of Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee? I ask for the second time. And I ask for the third and final time, are there any more nominations? Okay, so we have Councillor Wright and Councillor Butler. Now we'll do this via a show of hands, Councillor. So, councillors, sorry. So just in the way they were nominated, and councillors online, you'll have to unmute your microphone and either keep your hand down or show your hand in terms of who you're voting for. It won't be electronic voting. So we'll have votes for Councillor Wright as chair. Yeah, of course you can vote for yourself. Yep, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. And Councillor Ryan, just to make sure, can you unmute just to see? We just need... Cool, okay. Leave that, if we can get you leave the unmuted. Richard as well, just so we can see. Then we have Councillor Butler. Show of hands. 2, 3, 4. And Adam, or Councillor Ryan, sorry. can you unmute? Can't see you. And if show of hands, thank you. I now invite Councillor Butler as the chair of the committee to come forward and chair the rest of the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Butler, and congratulations. Yep.
So just tap the button again. Yeah.
Yep. No, you're on. You're all good. Ready to go.
Item IPEC 24/50, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare?
That's good.
Okay. There's no one's declared an interest. We'll move on. Item IPEC 24/51, development activity summary. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Building and Development Services? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Black. So we just do the mover thing. Yep.
Do that.
So would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment. There's a couple of items listed on page 8 and 9 of that report. Some pretty significant DAs that are under consideration at the moment. I guess that provides a fair bit of confidence, or it demonstrates a fair bit of confidence in those proponents to throw some pretty substantial amounts of money back into investment into the city. So I noticed the residential stuff is sort of tapering off a little bit, but hopefully we'll see a bit more positivity through the new year with some interest rate cuts. But certainly those big developments are significant contributors. So.
Thank you. So is there any further questions or debate? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, page 8, there was a function center and accommodation. Can this get a staff a bit update? What sort of function center would be there? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll throw to Mr. Jennings, relevant director.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that development application's at Taronga Western Plains Zoo, so it's a function centre, also some accommodation and some other works there as well, about $23 million worth of development. It's nearing its, getting very close to its approval phase. It's a Western Joint Regional Planning Panel application, and the meeting's coming up next week. So we should have some good news for next month for the update.
Oh, Councillor Chowdhury.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, I really would like to thank the team. Council team are doing really well. They are still #1 for the DA approval. So keep doing your good work. I think you make us proud. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Pam Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just got a question around on page 8 as well, which is D24/360, which is the public building administration for 130 Brisbane Street. Just curious when that construction is to begin, or has it begun?
So to you. Yep.
And I'll pass to Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the development application isn't approved at the current time, so the team's working through the assessment process with the proponent as we speak as well. So yeah, not sure of when that would be looking to commence construction, just given where we are in the process.
Thank you.
Councillor Ivey.
Yes, I think when that was first mooted before, the issue of car parking came up. Is there been any progression on that, or is that part of the DA conditions still to be approved, or what's the story with car parking?
So Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, definitely one of the items that the team's working through with the proponent as we speak in respect of car parking.
Any further questions? Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Just a question on page 9, that little table there that talks about, I suppose that's that little league table. Just give us a bit of an explanation on there's average assessment days. And when does that start from? And lodgement days. So can you just explain the difference between those average assessment days and lodgement days and maybe when they start?
Oh, yep. Sorry, through to you, Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, through the State Government Planning Portal, because all applications are lodged online, so no development applications are actually lodged over the counter. That lodgement days or that lodgement period, it's about when the application's checked by the team and also waiting for that fee payment process to work through as well. So from there, in respect to the average assessment days, so that does take into account that holistic number. Also the October days have just come out as well. They didn't quite make the report, but it has seen us improve our position again in respect to those numbers. So you'll have some good numbers there to look at next month.
Any further debate?
Am I allowed to ask another, not a question of comment? I'm just curious about the differences of questions and comments. I can do a comment?
So in committees, there's a less restrictive debate rules as there are in council. So in council, you can make one comment and what have you, but you can ask lots of questions. In committees, there is less restriction, so you can have a number of times you can make comments. There's no restriction that way, and there's never any restrictions on questions.
Great, thank you. My comment was really about the same table that Councillor Wright referred to. I feel that actually we're well positioned in comparison to other councils in terms of our average days of assessment. So I just wanted to call that out. That's pretty good work. Thank you. And hearing that we've improved our position since October, that's even better to hear.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Chowdhury?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to get a little bit update through you, Mr. Chair, the Drug Rehabilitation Centre DA. Where are we up to that one, please?
To you, Mr. Jennings. Oh, Mr. Jennings. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the public exhibition process finishes next week for that development application. The team are currently working through that assessment process. It will be a development application which will be considered by the Western Joint Regional Planning Panel as well, similar to the Taronga Western Plains Zoo DA. So, but yeah, the public exhibition process is nearing completion and just currently under assessment.
Anything further? Councillor Chowdhury?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, further to the staff, if get some clarification, like if there's a lot of like a negative feedback we receive from the community regarding this development, is council has anything to do with that, or that gonna be regional, the planning board have to approve or consider?
Mr. Jennings? Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So with the Western Joint Regional Planning Panel being the consent authority, council isn't the consent authority for the actual application.
Any further? Any further questions or debate? No? All right. Yeah, Mover, would you like to have a right of reply?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All those in favour?
Yep.
Is that right?
All those in favour, but we've got to set that up. Say that.
Okay. All those in favour?
Now, it's beggars councils. We just got to work through the digital count the mayor, so we've just got to do it. Hang on, Richard. Right. So. Yes, yep.
Do we have to, Mr. Councillor Ivey and Councillor Ryan?
So, yep, I'll ask them to unmute so that we can see them.
Oh, they are. Oh, yeah.
Richard's got his hand up.
Oh, Richard's got his hand up. Yep. Okay. Very good. I declare the motion carried. How do we get out of that one? Okay. Okay. Right. Yep. Okay. So item IPC 2452, the New South Wales 2025 Touch Football Junior State Cup Dubbo.
Councillor Ivy's just
Question.
So, sorry, just going back to that voting, it said that it was 9-0 and I didn't see where it recorded that I'd voted. Is that right?
So, Councillor Ivy, we saw your hand. It didn't come up electronically, but we saw your hand, so we'll record that for the minutes as voting for the paper.
Because I think the same thing happened before. The voting was 9-0 and it should be 10.
Yeah, but we didn't see the digital vote come up. You didn't have any colour against the name of the box, so that's why we asked you to unmute and show the hand. So,
Anyway, just on that, it doesn't seem to be working because I had unmuted and then it suddenly, when someone else comes in, it then mutes me again. So it doesn't seem to be working.
we captured the vote, so rest assured, but we don't capture that digitally. It only captures if you record the vote digitally.
Okay, thanks.
Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the traffic engineer? Thank you. Councillor Kelly, yep. And we have a seconded, Councillor Richardson, thank you. And Councillor Kelly, would you like to speak to the motion?
As read, Mr. Chairman, only to just say that it came before the Traffic Committee, and given that the New South Wales Touch Football Junior State Cup is such a phenomenal event for Dubbo, we are very pleased to submit this as a recommendation. It's a wonderful thing for Dubbo.
Okay. Were there any questions or debate? Councillor Wells, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, I suppose, concur with Councillor Chowdhury. Sorry, not Councillor Chowdhury, Councillor Cowley. Sorry. That it's really good that we've got the traffic plan sorted for this, but I also wanted to agree that the New South Wales Touch Football Carnival, Junior Touch Football Carnival that's held here in Dubbo has been really successful and will hopefully continue to be successful for the next 3 years. So just happy to see it here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm echoing with my fellow councillor. Actually, yeah, that is a fantastic event, very successful for our region. Through you, Mr. Chair, I have a question. I know this came from the traffic committee, but is that update gonna be in like a public consultation? This traffic committee decision, or it's already been done? Thank you.
To you, Mr. Wood.
To Mr. Ryan.
It's not. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'll take that on notice, Councillor Chowdhury, and get back to you on that one. Thank you.
So, Councillor Chowdhury, this is a very technical approval from the Traffic Committee. So it's had the major stakeholders in terms of Transport for New South Wales, the police. And so from a traffic approval point of view, it's authorised so they can implement this traffic control. So there's no need for consultation in that regard. Certainly community, through an events point of view, will be made aware, and there's not many changes from the previous years, only minor adjustments. I might throw to Mr. Ryan for that clarity.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Yes, it's a reoccurring event, and the traffic control plan is pretty much the same as what we had last year, with a minor adjustment. But yeah, as Mr. CEO was saying, the traffic committee looks at the technical aspect of the traffic control plans to get approved by council, and I'm sure there'll be publicising the event. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions or debate? Okay. Councillor Cowley, would you like to have a right of reply?
No, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Right. So,
Start with digital voting.
yeah, we'll start digital voting. All those in favour? Or voting, yeah. You don't. Yep. Yep. Thank you. Okay. And we're waiting for.
You should have 10 or 9. It's here, you've got 8 who
Yep.
voted.
And you've got to get 10.
Well, you'll get 9 Richard's turn.
Richard's, yeah. Councillor Cowley. Are you Councillor Cowley?
Yep, we've got 10.
Oh, there we go. Excellent.
Yep,
So,
okay, yes.
yes. And now what?
That one.
That one. All right.
And stop voting.
Still voting. All right. Yep.
And just do that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I declare the motion carried. Okay, item IPC 2453, Dubbo Triathlon Club 2024-25 Summer Triathlon Series. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Senior Traffic and Transport Engineer? Councillor Cowley, and a seconder. Councillor Toynton. Councillor Cowley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Only to say that, again, this came before the Traffic Committee and after a very comprehensive risk assessment and, again, recognising and acknowledging that it's a very technical committee and that this is the technical side of the traffic arrangements only. The Dubbo Triathlon Club, again, it's another event for Dubbo, which is terrific for community and sporting, the sporting fraternity. And, as Councillor Chowdhury alerted before, once the Traffic Committee, the traffic arrangements go to council, and there will be a communication strategy with the community as to the arrangements. But it's again another terrific committee. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or debate? Councillor Cowley, would you like a right of reply?
Myself, no, thank you.
Right.
So commence the voting.
So we'll commence the voting. Start voting. Yep.
Just wait for it to get to 10, and then you hit that bottom down.
Mm-hmm.
Just once it's at 10. That's a bit of a way. Looks like the road goes.
Is Councillor Ivey doing the hand thing again?
No, he was doing digital.
Oh, he's doing it again.
Somehow, Mr. Chair, it stopped the electronic voting for me. It just come to manual.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ivey. We're going to declare the motion carried.
Yeah, it did the same thing for me too, guys. Sorry.
Oh, yep, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Yep. All right. So moving to item IPEC 24/54, Dubbo Transportation Strategy, Progress and Update Report. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Infrastructure Strategy and Design? Thank you, Councillor Wright. A second, Councillor Black. Thank you. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to the motion at all?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, this is a document, it's an extensive document, and it's certainly one that I'd encourage all of the community to have a read through. So obviously if you fail a plan, you plan to fail, and there's a lot of infrastructure projects in this document that will extend for many, many years. And I know there's one that the community obviously has a lot of interest in and have done for a number of years, and it's the South Bridge. And I was just going to ask a question with respect to that. It starts on page 59, rolls through to page 60. And I know there's a lot of funding and a lot of things that happened beforehand, but a bit of an idea of how we're tracking on that and what sort of time frames to undertake some of those remaining studies that are in place, if I can get an answer to
To you, Mr. CEO.
And I'll pass to Mr. Johnson, the relevant manager.
Through the chair, so as you may be aware, the council resolved in September last year to narrow down the options to 2 and progress to a detailed business case. So council is currently working through some of the subtasks, so the preliminary task, the pre-tasks, pre-projects that would lead into a detailed business case. So looking at addressing some of the community concerns and some of the more drilling down into more detail in design and costings, which will be important to lead into a detailed business case. Timing at this stage is somewhat unknown because a lot of those tasks will require us to work with Transport for New South Wales, particularly around the intersections on the highway, and making sure we have Transport for New South Wales support before finalising a detailed business case. We're currently working on a lot of those. We're actually working on a detailed program and a Gantt chart, which we will have prepared at some point once we get our heads around that a little bit more. So at this point, I don't really have a time frame, but we will soon. Probably, I would say over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be looking at developing more detailed concepts around intersections on the highway for those 2 options that we have preferred, and then developing concepts for things like the realignment of Bligh Street, the intersection of Tamworth Street and Macquarie Street, so that we can start to address some of the community concerns that arose during community consultation.
Is there any further questions? Yeah, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the staff again, done this fantastic job. And I'll request to the community to read through and have a look. Through you, Mr. Chair, because Dubbo is growing and there was a lot of development, housing development is coming. So what about, I have seen like there was a traffic model has done, but what about like the parking, like at this moment in CBD, we have shortage of parking and we know new office building gonna refurbish in here. So like around 400 to 700 staffs gonna coming to just in middle of the city. So what that like a parking space wise, any study has been done? Thank you.
To you. Yep.
So the CBD parking strategy is different to the traffic model. So I might get Mr. Johnson to explain what the traffic model is, and then I'll refer back and I might throw to Mr. Ryan in terms of parking strategy first. Mr. Johnson, in terms of that traffic model, just explain that basis.
So the traffic model and the transportation strategy mainly looks to address, I guess, missing links in the network that are going to be important for enabling future growth of the city, particularly in West Dubbo and some of those new urban release areas. Whereas the CBD parking strategy will be a separate body of work that will look into more detail around future parking needs and potential opportunities to support future development in the CBD.
And from that base, I'll throw to Mr. Jennings actually in terms of planning and the CBD strategies.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to further augment Mr. Johnson's answer there, the operational plan for the 24-25 financial year has a action for a CBD strategy to be prepared. As a integral component of that CBD strategy is that parking analysis and also wider movement and loading, unloading analysis throughout the CBD. So, looking about how we get pedestrians around and also land use composition and the like as well. So that body of work will tee off in the new year.
Are there any further questions or debate? Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. I would like to see more like a disabled car parking around the Dubbo CBD when you do that like a consultation or planning. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to get a bit update for Western Distributor Road, please.
All right, good to you, sir. Mr. Johnson.
Through to Mr. Johnson.
Yep.
through the chair, there has been some progression on a number of strategic road alignments around Dubbo, particularly in areas where there has been significant growth and development pressure. In Central West, Dubbo particularly, there has been a lot of some master plans and DCPs developed, which actually has required us to lock in an alignment for the Western distributor in that part of Dubbo. So there has been some work in that area. There is still more work to be done on developing the alignment further south and further north. But there are some significant challenges, particularly to the south with biodiversity, that we have to work through on narrowing down those options. So there has been some work on developing alignments, and that's about it at this point.
Councillor Chowdhury?
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Is there any time frame for this, like when we can see some sort of work will be start?
To you, Mr. CEO.
So work starting, it's a long way away. What we're working on is securing the corridor, and part of that is identifying, I guess, a corridor of least expense and least impact on biodiversity, for example, the southern end. So work is some time away, but the important part is to get the corridor secured. Some bits move faster. For example, the Central West has a developer that is keen, so we need to make sure we secure it at that early stage when it's former farmland, not when you've got houses bumping up against it. But there is some parts where we're already talking developers where they're keen to develop right against it as well. So that's the main priority in terms of workload. I don't know if Mr. Johnson wants to provide any further. No, that's where that's up to.
Councillor Wells, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to touch on Councillor Chowdhury's query about parking, and I know that it's not in this particular, but we had a discussion. With the new development in Brisbane Street and the potential and the parking for the area, and I suppose just really wanted to shine a light on that. It's really difficult to get a car park around that area any time of the day for employees or just shoppers to get into that area. So I think the sooner that we hear what's going to change for parking for the CBD of Dubbo, the better. Thank you.
Any further questions or debate? Online? No? Right of reply, Councillor?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
I'll now open up the voting. So please vote.
Start voting.
Yep.
Yep, it's working now.
Okay, good. Oh, there we go. Yep.
You'll now close the voting.
That one. Okay. The voting's closed. We declare the motion carried. And then,
There you go.
okay. Oh, we've come to the end.
You didn't
So-
vote though, that's all good.
Okay. Do I need to vote still?
Just make it known that you voted for the motion.
Okay.
verbally.
I just I voted verbally for the vote. Thank you. Where to next? Yeah,
Do that one.
this one. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yep. Item IPC 2455, naming of thoroughfare associated with the development application D2017-460, Tanandra and Barbigal Streets, Wongarbin. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the LIS and e-services coordinator? Thank you, Mr. Toynton. Councillor Toynton, seconder. Councillor Richardson. So, Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy with the recommendations in the report.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate? Okay. Would you like a right of reply? Okay. No need. So we'll just move to voting then. Yep. Start voting. If we could vote, please. Thank you. Yeah, okay. All right. Close the voting. Stop voting. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next one.
Just read it out, mate. Yep.
All right. As there are no further items, I declare the Infrastructure Planning and Environmental Committee closed, the time being 6:06 p.m.
That's it.
That's it.
I'll now open the meeting of the Culture and Community Committee meeting, the time being 6:06 p.m. I'll hand to the CEO to act as returning officer for the election of a chairperson.
Thank you, councillors. In accordance with clause 6.3 and 6.4 of WA Regional Council Code of Meeting Practice, the election of chair is to be conducted by myself or an employee, but I advise that as Chief Executive Officer, I'll act as the returning officer to conduct the election in this case. As returning officer, I'll now accept nominations by a show of hand. Can I have nominations for the position of Chair, Culture and Community Committee? Councillor Black.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Wells.
Councillor Wells, you accept the nomination?
Thank you. Yes, I do.
Thank you. Any further nominations for the position of Chair of the Culture and Community Committee? I'll now move through the process. I now invite further nominations for the position of Chair for this term. The term being 2 years, if you recall. I now ask for the first time, are there any more nominations for the position of Chair of the Culture and Community Committee? I ask for the second time for nominations. I now ask for the third and final time, are there any more nominations for the position of Chair for Culture and Community Committee? And I'll be a bureaucrat and still make you vote for it, even though there's only one candidate, just so there's no, because you can abstain. So can I have a show of hands for Councillor Wells to be the chair of the committee? Team online, if you could unmute and so we could see the hands. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. We just need Councillor Ryan. Hold it up. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Congratulations, Councillor Wells. I'll ask that you assume the position of chair. Good to go.
Thank you. This one first?
No.
This one. I'd like to refocus on the item CCC 24/41, a leave of absence. I have a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Matthew Dickinson.
Ask for mover.
Could I have somebody move that, please? Councillor Chowdhury. Could I have a seconder? Councillor I. Thank you. Any questions or debate? All those in favour or against it? In favour, I should say. Is this a voting one on here? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Please vote.
You've got to vote too. The little number there tells you they've all voted. Number 10 underneath.
Still waiting on a couple.
I can't see it on my one, the vote option. Oh, thank you.
10.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you can declare it closed. You'll close the voting now. Hit that little white button there, little one. Yep. Just tell people you're closing the voting.
I'll now close the voting. Thank you. And I declare that motion carried. Thank you. Do it right?
Yep.
Go back to this one.
No. Flip over. That's it.
Bear with me, people.
You're on track. That's it.
Sorry. Item CCC 2442, conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflict of interest to be declared? Okay. There are no conflicts of interest. We will move on. Rustling paper. Item CCC 24/43, Destination Events Funds, Stream 2 Festival of Football. Can I please have someone move the report of the Events Partnership Team Leader? Thank you, Kate Richardson. Councillor Richardson, sorry. And seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Thank you. Would you, Councillor Richardson, like to speak to your motion? Are there any questions or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, I'm not sure if I'm willing to support this one. I understand that a lot of first-time events need a little bit of assistance to get off the ground, but just based on the report from staff on this particular one, look, the approach seems to be a little bit haphazard, probably lacks a business case. And I notice if I'm comparing some dollar value returns on the table on page 5 of that particular report for council's contribution towards certain events, that the return on investment is much more significant than it is. If we're talking from a dollar perspective for those other examples on there. Like I said, I understand first-time events need a little bit of assistance to kick off. Maybe it's not the 2025 event. It may be a 2026 event, just to enable the committee for this one to spend a bit more time putting a stronger business case together, I think, in this case. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will vote in favor of this motion because I think like staff has already done some homework and they I think it would be fantastic to showing the community that indigenous football that sort of festival is coming in our region, and also is showing the inclusiveness. Through you, Madam Chair, that the figure has shown to that business paper community benefits sort of thing. Can I get a little bit clarification from the staff how they determine that figures? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Through you, let's see.
I'll throw to Ms. Willett.
Through you, Madam Chair, the economic benefit is calculated based on the number of visitors times the number of nights times the average night stay for the Dubbo region, which is provided to Council Tourism Research Australia. So it's number of nights times number of people visiting times $320 per person per night.
Are there any further questions or debate? With that, I will call for a vote on your screens. Please vote. I'm closing the voting. Thank you. Everyone has voted. And I will declare that motion carried. I think. So, sorry, item CCC 24/44, Wellington Golf Course, lease of the golf course premises and a sublease of the clubhouse premises. Can I please have somebody move the report of the Manager, Recreation and Open Spaces, please? Thank you, Councillor Toyton. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Councillor Thornton, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any further questions or debate? Oh, sorry, thank you. Councillor Ivey?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I'd just like to speak to the motion and say that it seems to be after a very protracted bit of negotiation, a pretty good outcome, both a good outcome for the council, the golf club, and really the Wellington community. The golf club, I think, has always been a facility that's been not operated to its full potential, and I think that this type of arrangement whereby the lease has been discounted a little bit pending some improvements to be made by the golf club or by the Soldiers Club just seems to me to be a good outcome, and I'd like to see that whole precinct develop more than it has been over the last few years, and perhaps this is a first step towards seeing that happen. So I really commend the staff and the club for being able to negotiate this arrangement. It sounds to be, as I say, a bit of a win-win situation.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any further questions or comments or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just support those comments made by Councillor Ivey there. I'm probably equally excited, especially with regards to the letter that's contained in that report from the Wellington Soldiers Club. They make mention of that the plan to reduce that stay and play package, which just makes that whole precinct a lot more attractive. And I think a bit like Councillor Ivey, it's probably been a little bit underdone for a fantastic facility out there. Obviously similar to the current package that we offer from the zoo and the caves and the jail and the RFDS. You know, this type of thing to attract people across multiple facets of the assets we hold in this LGA is a great way to do it. A question I did have though, I know there's a commitment there from the Wellington Soldiers Club to make some improvements to the amenities out there. I'm just wondering and obviously there'll be a lease in place, I would imagine, for the new amount that we've negotiated, but just wondering whether there be something in that lease with respect to that, a written commitment, I suppose, in that lease for those improvements on those particular assets to make sure they're done.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through to CEO.
Thank you, Councillor. Through Madam Chair. So yes, the Capital Works program is part of the negotiations and forms part of the agreement that we've reached. The new rent is a change and it is a bit of a step up, and so the 5-year transition into a rolling rent period is something that we've spent some time working through, and part of the agreement is the Capital Works, and in return there's an incremented approach up to market rent.
Are there any further questions or debate? With that, I will go to a vote. Please. Okay. Please vote. Closing the vote. Thank you. Everyone's voted. With that, I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/45, defer cemetery amenity capital works allocation from 2024 to 2025 to 2025-2026 financial year. Can I please have someone move the report of the Executive Officer, Cultural Places? Thank you, Councillor Wright. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, I'm happy to support. Well, I will support this, probably begrudgingly a little bit. It's not an ideal situation. I prefer that money to be spent sooner. But look, I totally understand the comments in that report from staff with respect to the development of that master plan, which is another sort of 6 or 8 months away. So look, it certainly makes sense to defer that expenditure until we see an overall intent of that master plan. So I guess on that basis, I'll support. So.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further, Councillor Chowdhury?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will echoing to Councillor Wright, and I know this is one of your push for the cemetery amenities, and I would really like to see it gonna happen within that 25-26 that financial year, that construction, because it is a bit overcried from the community. They really need that amenity. So hopefully council can deliver that job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Are there any further comments, Councillor Toyton?
Yeah, look, I'm actually of an opposite opinion to this. I'll be voting against this motion. If we keep deferring capital works, so it's $150,000 now, what's it going to be when we get around to it? Suddenly inflation, the cost of extra materials, and now we're $300,000 and we say, oh, we'll just keep deferring it and it's just going to cost us more in the long run. So I'm actually going to be voting against the deferring and see that this is done sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor Toyton. Are there any further debates? Councillor Ryan, did you ask a question?
Yeah, look, I'd just like to probably just follow in with what Councillor Toyton was just saying. So speaking in the community, especially for the Wellington Cemetery, we've had a fair bit of sorry business out here in the last couple of weeks, and you know, that black cloud's not going away from Wellington anytime soon. We've got funerals for the next so many weeks, and the number one topic is the facilities. Where's the toilets? You know, we've got elderly and young people that are out there that there's no toilets, so I'm just wondering if this is to defer the Wellington ones as well. If it is, look, I'd like to see it done rather than later as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Are there any further comments or questions? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question? So the master plans are being done concurrently for Dubbo and Wellington cemeteries, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Correct. Another question. Thanks. Would it be possible to defer both toilets to year 2? So we finish both master plans by the end of this financial year and then straight into building both toilets. So the Wellington toilet would be built as per the plan in year 2 and the Dubbo toilet would be deferred 9 months, basically. Would that, through you, Madam Chair, would that be a reasonable option given this? Thanks.
Through you, through to you.
Mr. Arms initially.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's certainly a solution. The budget doesn't identify which location. It just says one toilet in 1 year and the other toilet in the second year. The real benefit of waiting and doing the master plan is that we position the toilets and we design the toilets with after public consultation with a full master planning process under its belt. So it goes in the right place at the right time, at the right design, and stays there forever. So we get it right the first time. So that process is due to finish by the end of the financial year. Following community consultation, we'll have designs and locations for both cemeteries. And yes, we can build both toilets in that second year of the budget, which is next financial year. That would be a good outcome.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey?
Yes, I'd support those comments that let's do a master plan. Let's make sure we get it right. For sure, I understand Councillor Ryan's comments that we do need a facility, but we've gone without it for a little while now. let's just defer it a little bit longer and make sure we get it right, get the arrangements, get the whole construction correct. So if that means just deferring a little bit, let's do that.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Black?
There I am. Yes, just following on from Councillor Toynton, Councillor Ryan, is there, Madam Chair, a possibility that the Wellington, well, actually, I'll backtrack a bit. The facilities at the Dubbo Lawn Cemetery, what are they like? I'm not familiar with them.
Thank you. I'll through you, Mr. CEO.
They do, Mr. Arms.
There are no facilities at the new Dubbo Cemetery. There's a portaloo there, and at the Wellington Lawn Cemetery, there aren't any. There's old toilets which are now decommissioned. That's the current situation at both toilets. So temporary arrangements could be made, but at the moment there's no formal toilets at either cemeteries.
Okay, so is this a point where you can make an amendment to say that that you'd support the motion in lieu of the fact, excuse the pun, of the fact that Wellington could get a portable or a temporary system going at there, so that as Councillor Ryan pointed out, that the throughput at Wellington Cemetery is obviously quite large at the moment, and so I'd like to. I mean, I'm a bit sharing with Councillor Toynton and Ryan that I'd like to see the Wellington ones not deferred, but I do see the point of a master plan as well. So I would like to propose. Is this where you park a motion or something like that, or an amendment to see that I'd vote for a master plan if Wellington gets a temporary accommodation, or however you want to call that, for their facilities.
Thank you. Through to you, Mr. Chair, Mr. CEO.
So, Council, what I've heard thus far, there will need to be, if you so choose, so that would be an amendment. So that would be an additional, so it's not negating something in the motion. So you would say that
Correct,
Council allocate funding for operationally for a portable toilet facility. So I'd suggest when there's something going on, as opposed to leaving a portaloo there all the time.
Sure.
So we could draft those words. The other, just while we're talking amendments, so if Councillor Black, what yours would have been would also be an amendment. Now, Councillor Butler's would be amendment because it's nothing referred to that in the recommendation of staff that's been moved. In terms of deferred from year 2 for the budgets years 2 and 3, that could be by agreement with the mover and seconder, just to remove and 3 to the motion, and that would mean it would fit with what Councillor Black just said. But you'd have to get the agreement of the mover and seconder if you just wanted to make that change now, or you could move through a formal amendment process. That's up to you. So there's 2 ways forward. Yours would be an amendment, Councillor Butler, so you can foreshadow an amendment. Yep. And then I would suggest you need to explore whether you want to make that change to the original motion or you want to move it as an amendment. You need to get the agreement of the mover and seconder.
Yes, I would like to do it. So how would I get the
Hang on, we'll have to throw to the chair now. So you've been told you've foreshadowed an amendment, so you'll park it. We need to address the first item raised by Councillor Black, I'd suggest first.
Okay.
And then yours is on the books, ready for when that's resolved.
So back to Councillor Wright as the mover of the motion.
Sorry, can I just get a repeat on that particular one if you can?
Yep.
Thank you.
So if you so choose, and you don't have to, we can move through an amendment. So if you're open to the suggestion that you just remove in the second line, so it would read that funding allocated for toilet facilities at New Dubbo and Wellington Lawn Cemeteries be deferred from years 1 and 2 of the adopted 24-25 4-year budget to years 2 and 3 respectively, and then it's as per. You just, instead of having years 2 and 3 respectively, you just have to years 2 and lose and 3 respectively. So that would fit with what Councillor Black said, that you finish the master planning, and then in year 2 you deliver the 2 amenity blocks, as Mr. Arms said would be possible. You'd need to both agree to that, the mover first, then the seconder, or if you don't agree, then Councillor Black would move that as an amendment. But first, because it'll be amendment, Councillor Butler's would go first because it's foreshadowed.
Okay, so just seeking clarity prior to that, this would ensure that it would be moved to year 2, post completion of the master plan, not pre-completion of the master plan.
Correct. That's what that would mean. If you move the words and 3 respectively, it would just mean you get the master plans done, then you kick straight into delivery of the 2 amenities blocks.
Yep, and I'm happy to support that. Thanks.
You need this.
And the seconder as well, but Councillor.
And does that still allow for community consultation?
Sorry. I'll wait for you.
Through to you, Mr. CEO.
And I'll throw to Mr. Arms.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, there's a detailed community consultation component to the consultant's project plan. So that's likely to happen post-Christmas. So work is underway now. We'll be hitting the ground running soon in the new year involving the community.
In that case, I'm very happy with that compromise. Good
Thank
result.
you. So I'll throw to Mr. CEO to reread the new motion.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So the substantive motion that's in front of councils now is that the funding allocated for toilet facilities at New Dubbo and Wellington Lawn cemeteries be deferred from years 1 and 2 of the adopted 24-25 4-year budget to year 2 to allow the development of the master plan for both the New Dubbo and Wellington Lawn cemeteries in the current financial year, year 1. That's now the substantive motion. Pardon me? Yeah. So if I could talk process, so that's now just the standard motion. So now, Madam Chair, you'd move to the foreshadowed amendment, I would suggest.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So moving to the foreshadowed amendment, Councillor. Yep.
I'd like to propose an amendment that the Wellington Lawn Cemetery be given a portable facility for the toilets in the interim between now and the second year. I think we're talking for the actual construction.
Through to you, Mr. CEO.
Staff have just prepared some words so this will be a new item 2, that's added to the substantive motion. If I could throw to Madam Chair, Ms. Rapp.
I just wanted to add on the funeral days. Yeah, okay, thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Microphone.
That council suggests point 2 that council allocate funding to provide a portable toilet facility at the Wellington Lawn ceremony during services until permanent toilet facilities are completed.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, that is.
Symmetry.
I will need a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Sorry. Are there any further questions or debate with the new motion?
With the amendment.
With the amendment, sorry.
Yeah, just
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, Councillor Ryan.
Is that me? Just with having the facilities there just for the funerals and whatnot, is it possible to have it there over, your days such as your Christmases and whatnot too? Because a lot of people come home who do live away to visit loved ones who are laid to rest here, and it's the days, like your Mother's Days, your Father's Days, Christmas, and so on. Would it be possible to have them for those special events as well?
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Through to you, Mr. CEO.
So we can make that adjustment. You just need the mover and the seconder to be happy to those additions, and Ms. Rouse will work on the words if
I'm
you're
happy
happy.
to move that addition.
Councillor Cowley.
And I think that's a very good suggestion because it is a high traffic time for cemeteries for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Can I please ask Mr. CEO to confirm the rewording of the motion amendment?
I'll pass to Ms. Rouse for the amendment reading.
Can I just clarify? Do you want specific days listed? Because I'm proposing that council allocate funding to provide a portable toilet facility at the Wellington Lawn Cemetery during services and special event days. We can have in brackets Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Christmas, for example. Close bracket until permanent toilet facilities are completed.
Thank you. Councillor Butler, are you satisfied with that?
I accept that. Yeah.
Thank you. And the seconder, so Councillor
Yes.
Cowley.
Yep, very much so.
Thank you. Any questions or debate on the amendment, please? Councillor Wright.
Oh, it's just a comment with respect to those days. I know that some days will be more important than others, and there'll be days that we don't that aren't listed on there that'll be important. And I'm sure council will be criticised as a result that they didn't think they were important. So I guess we just need to be careful about naming days. I'm totally happy to accept those ones that are listed on there, but it's just a comment I'm going to make. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any further comments or debate on the amendment? So before we move, actually, I've got to go back. Before we move to the mover of the amendment for the right of reply, I'd like to add a comment myself. And as an initial mover of this motion in the last term, I would be happy to see it moved as it's been declared now. I am really conscious of the fact that there needs to be suitable amenities at both sites, not just the Wellington site, but with no service at the Dubbo Lawn Cemetery. And for quite a number of years, we've heard from community about the need for services out there. So I'm happy that we've been able to get to a point where we move it, change it to year 2. So I just thought I'd add my comments in there as well. Thank you. Right. So if we go back to, as the original mover, Councillor Wright, would you like a right of reply?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, obviously happy to support the couple of amendments that have been made there. Look, one thing I will say is that look, we saw what happened in the past when we don't master plan. We start plonking things. We plonked a toilet on Church Street a couple of years ago without any community consultation whatsoever, and businesses along there have probably suffered as a result. But without even being able to provide their commitment to it, and we've got an item coming up in confidential there here tonight with regards to some funding on a couple of projects that where council previously accepted funding without any master planning on how to spend it. So I am a big fan of master planning. I think this slide amendment meets the demands of all the requirements of everyone in the community to try and get this there as soon as possible. So and on the basis of that, yeah, happy to support that. And I think that's a good outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. With that, I will move to voting on your devices. Please. On just the amendment, sorry. Councillor Chowdhury. Yep. Thank you. And with that, I'm closing the voting, and I declare that motion carried. Okay. So that was the amendment. Now we need to refer back to the full motion, and do we go back for?
Yeah, open it up.
Okay, all right. So now we're on the full motion. Any questions or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Through you, Madam Chair. I just would like to get a little bit update. What the current amenities like available for Dubbo Cemetery? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Can I have that with the current level, did you say, or the current planning? Because there is no level.
No, I said at this moment, is there any toilet facilities?
No. No, there's no current provision of amenities at the moment.
Through you, Madam Chair. So is that Dubbo will get the portable loo as well, or during that special occasion?
Through you, Mr. CEO.
As per the motion in front of you now, no. There's one there now, so there's no extra. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you. If there is one, that's why I make sure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Are there any further questions or debate? Yep, Councillor Ivey. We can't see you, Councillor Ivey. You might need to unmute.
A question is the Dubbo portable facility is there permanently, though, is it? I mean, it's not just for special occasions; it's just left there permanently. And if that's right, has it been subject to any vandalism or any damage?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Arms.
Yes, CEO, sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, it remains in place. It was put in there a couple of years ago, primarily for staff reasons. There were personal reasons for the staff member out there at the time, but it was also made available for the public to use. So that explains that part. Vandalism, no, not commonly. We have had issues of vandalism for it, but not on a regular basis. So it's been quite ad hoc. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey, were there any further questions? Are there any further questions or debate?
Thank you.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Black.
Could I just ask where the toilet's located at the Dubbo Cemetery, please?
To Mr. Arms.
It's located at the eastern point of the cemetery. Near there's sheds there on the eastern point there. It's a triangle and it's on the eastern point. Is it Amelie Road? Out the back there in the highway junction.
So, if I may, very low profile, well away from typically the public areas is where that shed and that working areas, I think, is a description of how it sits in the cemetery.
Any further questions or debate? Councillor Richardson.
Are there there's facilities at the old Dubbo Cemetery?
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Arms.
No toilets at the old Dubbo Cemetery.
Have we thought about putting a facility at the old Dubbo Cemetery as well?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Arms.
No, it hasn't come up in consultation back to us. The old Dubbo Cemetery is a closed cemetery. Well, it's conditional actually, so they're taking no new interments. So only interments taken now are those that are already booked, if you like, or if there is a need for a reclamation or anything like that. So it is only day visitors that go to that site, whereas the other two cemeteries take up more than 95% of our annual interments.
Sorry, I just wanted a bit of clarification because a lot of people do go to the old Dubbo Cemetery researching family
Just ensuring, sorry, I'm just going
Sorry.
to call order. If you could please come through the chair. Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm new at this too. Because a lot of people go and do family history research at the old Dubbo Cemetery as well, and I understand it's only open during the day, but yeah, sorry.
Don't apologise. Through you, Mr. CEO.
I think the difference there is that people go there knowing it's a day visit, whereas the other two have major, want of better descriptions, functions or ceremonies with lots of people gathering at one time as opposed to individual visits and very limited use for funerals, as Mr. Arms said. So I think that's the key difference is why we're focused on amenities at the more active cemeteries.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Black.
Just very quick question. Is the Portaloo at the Dubbo Cemetery accessible to the public? Can the public use it?
Through you, to you, Mr. CEO.
I think Mr. Arms commented, said it's available. It was put in there for staff working at the cemetery, but they have made it available to public as well, I believe, Mr. Arms. The Portaloo at the new Dubbo Cemetery.
Yeah, it was originally put in for, like I said, for personal reasons for staff members, but yes, it directions to the green space staff is that's made available for the public.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or debate? With that, we will move to voting on the original motion. Yep. The initial motion, sorry. So the motion, I apologise. Putting or voting on, please vote. Mm. I'm now closing the voting as everyone has voted. Thank you, and I declare that motion carried. Oh, that's it. Thank you. As there are no further items, I declare the Culture and Community Committee meeting closed, the time being 6:46 p.m. Is that it?
I'll now open I'll now open the meeting of the Corporate Services Committee and hand over to the CEO as returning officer for the election of the chairperson. The time being 6:45 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, in accordance with clause 6.3 and 6.4 of Dubbo Regional Council's Code of Meeting Practice, the election of chairs being conducted by myself, and I advise that I will act as a returning officer to conduct the election. I will now accept nominations by a show of hands. Can I have nominations for the position of Chair of the Corporate Services Committee?
I nominate Kate Richardson, Councillor Richardson, apologies.
Councillor Richards, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Nomination. Are there any further nominations for Chair of the Corporate Services Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd like to nominate Councillor Chowdhury for that position as well. Thanks.
Councillor Chowdhury, do you accept the nomination?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I would like to withdraw because I've been chair before, and I think good to go with Councillor Richardson. Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Is there any further nominations, councillors, for the position of Chair of the Corporate Services Committee? I now ask for the first time, are there any more nominations for the positions of Chair of the Corporate Services Committee? I now ask for the second time, are there any more nominations for the position? I now ask for the third and final time, are there any more nominations for the position of Chair for the Corporate Services Committee? In that case, because you can abstain from a chair role, we'll have a vote. So those in favour of Councillor Richardson to be Chair of the committee, and team online, if you could unmute so we can see the hands. I now declare the result. Councillor Richards is Chair of the Corporate Service Committee. Congratulations. So just check your card in. See. Your left button. So first up, just need to do that one.
Okay. Thank you very much. So first item on the agenda is item CSC 24/43, a leave of absence. I've got a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Matthew Dickerson. I would like to be the mover for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, and seconded by Councillor Wright. Any questions or debate?
Move to digital voting.
Okay.
Just say to start voting.
Just moving to digital voting now, so
Yep,
push that one.
Yep. You vote. That's cool. Numbers, they'll get to 10.
Mm. Councillor Wells, have you voted? No, she's broken. Oh, good.
Yep, it's done. So there you go. You'll close the voting.
Right.
So you hit that white button.
This one?
Yep, so tell people you're closing the voting now.
Okay, I'm just closing the voting now.
So stop. Yep.
Yes, I do.
The result. So
Okay. And then I just,
declare the motion carried.
okay, I declare the motion carried. That's it. Okay. Item CSC 24/44, conflicts of interest. Councillor Jen Cowley has, no, sorry. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. It's a non-pecuniary, less than significant conflict of interest relating to item CSC 24/48 with regard to the Australia Day, moving the Australia Day change of location. That the Rotary Club with which I volunteer that usually conducts the barbecue will have an interest, but I will stay in the room because it's non-pecuniary and of less than significant.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have to do for that. No worries. Next item is CSC 24/45, the monthly reporting snapshot for councillors in October 2024. Can I have someone move the report of the Corporate Strategy Performance Coordinator? Thank you, Councillor Butler. And seconded by Councillor Toynton. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak on the motion?
Yeah, I could stand on. Oh, sit down. Oh, yes, committee. Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to bring attention to page 12 as a question, if I could, on the report. I just wanted to look at the abandoned calls. So if you look at that graph on page 12, the very bottom line is 2024, 25 abandoned. If you look on the graph, it's the highest line on the linear lines that are going across horizontally. I was just wanted to ask about, I noticed that the abandoned calls are effectively double what they were at the previous time last time, and I was wondering if there's any insight into that, please.
I'll just throw to the CEO. Thank you.
And ask Ms. Brown to take that on.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have some staffing issues at the moment in the customer experience centre. That's meaning that we've got fewer staff on deck to answer the calls, and we're working hard to rectify that. Some planned and unplanned leave is the main issue there.
And with, oh yes, just one more then. I'm guessing the answer's the same perhaps for the previous question. The wait times were also quite large as well, often going from like 1 minute to nearly 2 minutes. Is that the same response? Yeah.
I'll pass that to the CEO.
Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the same response. We're working hard. We're outside our where we'd like to be, and we're working hard to rectify that.
So just one further thing, is there a time frame that we're looking at for when we either get the staff back or the extra staff or whatever needs, whatever measures you're taking, is there a time frame that we're looking at for returning back to the previous levels?
I'll throw to the CEO.
Ms. Brown.
It's something we're assessing at the moment, so I'll be able to get that information to you.
Any more questions or debate? Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in addition to the questions around the abandoned calls, is there any opportunity that we can do callbacks for potentially abandoned calls, please?
I'll pass that to the CEO.
Ms. Brown.
I'll take that question on notice.
Any more questions? Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick question with respect to council bulky good. Can you got bulky cleanup? Can you tell me maybe when the new process commenced for collection of bulky cleanup? When that actually new process commenced?
I'll pass that to the CEO.
Through to Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Madam Chair, the process from memory started from June this year, so it's a 12-month trial process, and we're looking to have a report back to Council in May of next year on how that's gone, and then for Council to look at options moving forward.
Thank you. Just following on from that, would it be any coincidence then that from July onwards, and not only did the call volumes increase by about 20% from June previous, but then the wait times blew out, obviously the dumped calls blew out, like all those numbers blew out. Would it be any coincidence that there's been an increase in the number of calls through the call centre as a result of people requesting bulky goods cleanup as opposed to doing it online?
I'll pass to the CEO.
There has been some increase in queries and questions and some people asking for help. There's also been, as we've discussed previously, about water meters and the water billing as well. So that's been an area of increased calls as well. But I'll throw to Ms Brown if there's any other trends of subjects on the calls.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have been experiencing higher levels of inquiries about bulky waste, but most of those are positive support for people to make the bookings online. That's the trend that we're seeing.
Any more questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Shibley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a fantastic report for the community to overview, go through. If they have any question, contact with any of our councillor. Through you, Madam Chair, I'll just make a comment because I'm one of the biggest supporter for double livestock market, and I can see these 24-25, they are just thriving. The number of cattle sales are thriving. So I just, I think they're doing fantastic job. And through you, Madam Chair, I know this is not related to this report, but if if I get a little bit update from the director, I know my fellow councillor had a little bit like a concern for that abandoned and wait time. Is it possible on 2 weeks time when we have a council meeting, we get some update from from the director, how we can, is there an action been taken? Thank you.
Am I going to send that to you? I'll pass that to the CEO.
Yeah, so with Ms Brown taking that question on notice, and in that regard, we'll take that in its full meaning of the word, and we'll have that available. What you would do, though, if you wanted to discuss that at the council meeting, you'd have to move the minutes of this committee, save and accept, so then you can discuss it separately.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Any more questions or debate? Miva, would you like a right of reply?
I was
Yes.
I was just going to answer to your invitation of further question and debate. That's all.
Yep.
Page 17 of that. So it's looking at the ways the investment are being made. Oh. Well, that's the next item, is it? Okay. I've been advised that's the next item, so I better wait till then. I've jumped the gun, apparently. My apologies.
Okay, no, you're right. We're all learning. So did you want a right of reply?
No, I'll be fine. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll open the voting.
Yep.
So I'll open the voting.
You vote. Just track the numbers.
Yeah.
It's the 10th. We got them all.
Okay, Adam. Okay.
Just tell them to close off the voting.
I'm just going to close off the voting now. So again,
No.
that one.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yes, I do. Right. Okay, I declare the motion carried. Supposed to be scribbling all over this. Next item is CSC 24/46, investment under Section 625 of the Local Government Act, October 2024. Can I please have someone move the report of the Chief Financial Officer? Thank you, Councillor Wright. And seconded. Thank you, Councillor Butler. Doctor, I think I'm at work. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Wright?
No, thanks, Madam Chair.
Any questions or debate on this one?
Yeah, I think this is my turn.
Yeah.
Yes, please excuse me. So on page 17 of the document, it refers to the different investment opportunities or that are being referred to. In Part E, it says a deposit with the New South Wales Treasury Corporation on investment in an hourglass investment facility of the New South Wales Treasury Corporation. Not being overly familiar with financial instruments, I was just wondering what an hourglass investment referred to.
I'll just pass to the CEO.
I'll pass to Ms. Bathingthwaite.
I'd have to take that on notice exactly what that investment is. Those means of investment are in line with our strategy, but that exact means of what that is, I'd have to take that on notice.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Any other questions or debate? Would the mover like a right of reply?
No, thanks, Madam Chair.
I'll start the voting. I'm just telling.
Councillor Ivor, we just don't have your vote recorded yet digitally.
Somehow the facility disappeared. I don't know what's went on, but I'll vote in favour.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So just close it off.
Yep.
Oh,
That's it.
yep. That done?
Yep.
Right. I declare the motion carried. Next item is CSC 24/47 Customer Experience Performance Measures. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager, Customer Experience and Engagement? Thank you, Councillor Toynton. Seconded by? Thanks, Councillor Cowley. I still think I'm at work. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Toynton?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions or debate on this one? No, so I don't have to do that one now.
Correct.
Okay. I'll start the voting. Okay. I'm going to close the voting now. Okay, and I declare the motion carried. Okay. Next motion on the agenda is CSC 24/48, Dubbo Australia Day 2025 change of location. Councillor Chet Cowley has declared an interest in this item. Councillor Cowley, could you read your declaration of interest?
Certainly. I volunteer with the Rotary Club of Dubbo Macquarie that usually conducts the barbecue at the Australia Day breakfast on Australia Day in the park. My position is voluntary with a not-for-profit service club, and it is non-pecuniary in nature and less than significant, so I intend to stay in the run.
Thank you. I now call forward registered speaker Bill Greenwood to address council on this item. Yep. So, Mr. Greenwood, you have 5 minutes to speak. When you come forward to speak, please state your name. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you will hear a bell. And at 5 minutes, you will hear the bell multiple times. The microphone will be turned off and you will conclude speaking. Gallery members should refrain from any disruptive behaviour, including clapping or jeering.
Thank you, Madam Chair and councillors. I'm on the Australia Day Committee, and we had our first meeting earlier this month, and it was decided that we should try and change it up. And we have behind me, I've just realised, in the light green to my my right, one of our finest recipients this year, Ophelia, of our Australia Day Awards, and I congratulate her again for the second time. The considerations that we looked at for this was that in January being the hottest part of the year, it's always between 38 and 42 degrees. It is stinking hot, especially for those on the barbecue. So the community members that usually come along are the older members, and you'll find that once the events are over, they toddle off. Even when you've got events on where you've got children performing, the parents will stay around for the kids and take the kids and shoot through. The whole idea is just to move the event for this year across to the community, to the Dubbo Centre, so that we can then provide what we feel a better area. There's been in the past 2 years, it's been very high temperatures. The committee's observed it's a much older demographics. There's always been a complaint about the acoustics, and I've been up the back getting another bacon and egg roll, and you can't hear always because we hire, everything we use out there is hired. The whole idea of coming back in here, and you won't believe it, but we're going to try and save you money. By coming back in here to the Dubbo Council chambers and to this beautiful centre we've got here, we're actually saving you money. We're saving you the money for not having to hire chairs, hire the electrical systems, the stage that we stand on. All this is provided, and it's in a beautiful setup. I'm so very proud of being part of one of the best cities in this country. I'm only a blow-in, but I intend staying here. There is no need for having a wet weather a wet weather plan. The reason being, in the last 16 years, there's only been 1 year that we've had to go indoors. When it did go indoors, the results and the comments back from the people who were there, from what I'm told, were all positive. The other thing that we've got to look at is that if vendors come and they stand out around and no one goes anywhere near them, they lose their money. They'll lose the interest in coming and supporting the things that we put on. Our idea is just to have a change and to try something different. So what we want to do is get our vendors in here. You've got the facilities which are level. They're friendly to whether you're visually impaired or whether you need walking aids or not. So the other thing that we will support it with is that the outline of the area is cost saving. Streamlines are set up and pulled down. There's less staff required on the time. There's no security overnight. I know that Western Plains Security do all that for you. And you ask, and I don't know whether Ophelia's going to talk, but you ask Ophelia as being one of the main recipients of this award. It is one of the most prestigious things that you'll get, to be an Australian award recipient. You know, it makes you so proud to be part of this community. And why not have it in a far better area? And I believe that with the air conditioning and the surroundings, we will get more interest from coffee makers and those who want to partake in the activities. We'll get more people hanging around and taking a look at what we've got to say and communicating. It's about getting out and seeing and meeting our neighbours and our own community. So I strongly support what we're saying, and I commend the motion to you. Is there any questions?
Thank you. You finished?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. So what do I do now? So that's the recommendation.
I need to move an alternative motion, so I'll just read that.
Okay, so this item requires a decision of council. Does anyone have an alternative motion? Councillor Black? Sorry, Councillor Shibley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yep, I have a alternative motion.
Yeah.
Or amendment, sorry. That number one, that the Australia Day event in Dubbo on 26th of January 2025 be held at the Dubbo Regional Theatre and Convention Centre. Number two, there is no other changes be made to the Australia Day event for Dubbo.
That's all right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor. So I need a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Councillor Black. Yeah. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Definitely, I will be in favour of this motion, and I would like to thank our committee member, Mr. Greenwood. I've spoken highly tonight, and I've been attended many Australia Day events, and I've been seeing like how hot, and it was really hard for the like a young to elderly generation, for everyone to be under the sun and can't enjoy. So I think we have a better facilities, so we should we are not making the decision. I think it's better for our community. Thank you.
Any other questions or debate? Councillor Black?
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Greenwood for coming along tonight and speaking. Great servant of the community for many years. So this idea came from the committee, the Australia Day Committee, and I think we should give it a go for a couple of years. At least give it 2 years, see if it works. If it doesn't, we can always go back to the park. But there was a lot of good reasons outlined by Mr. Greenwood summarising the committee's thinking, the community committee, and it would be good to give it a go. Give it 2 years probably, and unless it's an absolute failure, we can always go back to the park. That's no problem. But it's good that we could listen to the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too want to thank Mr. Greenwood for speaking on this. For me, I don't have an issue with it moving into the DRTC. I think it's a good idea, given the heat that we've been facing, over the many years that this has been held. My only, and it's not a criticism, it's a curiosity around how do we continue to think about the impact of Australia Day to 26 Gen, and how do we incorporate First Nations culture into the thinking. So it's just more of not a question, but a comment around how we do that better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, sorry, it just wouldn't unmute for me. Look, I too would fully support, this motion and having it indoors. Being on the Australia Day Committee here in Wellington last year, and knowing how hot it really was, we had our ceremonies on the 25th in the afternoon, which in my eyes was a success. A lot of elderly people come, so there was a lot more shade. But by all means, move it indoors. 100% support this, and it's good to see that the consultation with community is actually being listened to.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cowley?
Yes, I too thoroughly endorse this move to change it up a little bit. I'd like to also congratulate Mr. Greenwood and say that, yes, it is very hot cooking, that barbecue. But I think moving it inside is not only a good idea for the older people who come to the Australia Day celebrations, but it's a call from community, and I think listening to community is always a good thing to do. And given that we have our beautiful park just across the road, we can always go and use that anyway. The facilities are there, and I thoroughly endorse what Mayor Josh Black said, in that we give it a crack, and if it's no good, we can go back. So, yeah, heartily endorse this.
Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Councillor Ivey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a pick up and follow on from Councillor Wells's comments. As I think most people will know, I've been very vocal in trying to make Australia Day much more inclusive, to include old people, young people, Indigenous people, new people, old people. And I think that the sentiment is a really good thing to do, to try to make Australia Day more inclusive. And just in response to Councillor Wells' comments, I'd encourage her, if she really could, to work within the Indigenous community to be part of and partake in the Australia Day ceremonies. It's not just celebrating European settlement at all. It's celebrating the 26th of January, which is so important to all Australians, including the Indigenous community, for different reasons, but still a very important day. And I would really encourage her to work within the Indigenous community to try to get that engagement. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any more questions or debate? Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also forgot to mention that I know that on Australia Day, normally we have a process where kids can get into the pool free, and it's really popular. I mean, the young ones love to have a swim. And I know that there's been a change in the condition, in the management of the pool. So, I'm just curious again around how we will ensure that that's open to the community.
Pass that to the CEO.
Last time Belgravia opened that as part of their, in effect, sponsorship of the day. So we'll certainly have Mr. Arms as a relevant director raise that with them to, I guess, enable that to continue as it did last year.
Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm also in support of this in concept as well. Question though regarding some of the vendors that we've had at those previous years' events. A number of them had their caravans or food trucks, I suppose. I'm just wondering how the logistics of that would work for those sort of vendors, and maybe we haven't thought enough in advance as to where they would be set up and whether there'd be some additional costs for them if they were to operate internally inside the DRTCC.
Pass that to the CEO.
Thank you. And I'll pass to Ms. Wade and the governance team.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Events Committee have discussed this, and going back to the one time we were running the event indoors, what we will plan to do, we had actually thought of going bigger than Ben-Hur and closing the whole of Darling Street off, but we'll start smaller, and we're going to close off the council car park. We've got the car park at the rear, so we can have outdoor static displays in those locations, and it's still quite a safe, enclosed environment. We can do children's activities indoors in the foyer of the convention centre. So we can still manage to do all that. And I think with people being inside, they can go sit down and still sit down in the cool and eat once they purchase whatever food and things like that. So we haven't really worked out the full logistics. We wanted to lock in the venue, but there will be a way we can do that and hopefully attract more people because of it.
I'll just make a comment myself. I don't normally come to Australia Day celebrations, but this sounds actually really exciting, and knowing that you can get out of the heat and into the cool, yeah, it'd be a good idea. It's a great idea. And like we said, we can only try. Now, any other questions or debates? No. Would the mover like a right of reply? Oh, sorry, Councillor Toynton.
That's right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I agree with the entirety of us with the moving indoors. It makes it more inclusive to people who would otherwise say, oh, it's too hot and sit there sweating over the air conditioner. It's like encourages people to get out, and it's more beneficial to our community. So I'll 100% support this motion.
Any other questions or debate? Right. Would the mover like a right of reply? Thank you, Councillor. I'll start the voting. Okay. I'll just close the voting. And I declare the motion carried. Three, okay. Next item on the agenda is item CSC 24/49, future use of 74 Wingewarra Street, the Greens. There are 3 registered speakers for this item. Frilly Davis, I hope I said that correctly. Jack Randall and Kelly Jenner. You each have 5 minutes to speak. When you come forward to speak, please state your name. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you will hear a bell, and at 5 minutes, you will hear the bell multiple times. The microphone will be turned off, and you will conclude speaking. And gallery members should refrain from any disruptive behaviour, including clapping or jeering.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, I have laryngitis, so I hope this holds out. I'm Arafili Davis. The energetic rhythms of a drum circle as the sun sets over Dubbo. Traditional dancing under the stars. People of all ages enjoying local original music on a glorious spring day. A full car park most nights, with people sharing, making and connecting. These are the visions of the future some of us had when Dubbo Regional Council acquired the old bowling club in 2022. As Mr. Greenwood earlier indicated, I am Dubbo's Cultural Person of the Year. I am a writer, filmmaker, actor and volunteer. Since moving to Dubbo in 2005, social inclusion has been in the heart of my work. Now I help infrastructure projects achieve diversity and economic outcomes for our community. My husband, son and I made the Dubbo Tree change in 2005. Making friends was surprisingly hard, even though I already knew people through my husband. Adult friendships don't just fall into place. At the same time, my son was struggling with behavioural issues and my husband was away most of the week for work. I worked with lovely people, but between my son's suspensions, my husband's work absences, I felt increasingly isolated. Then, a lifeline. Wesley House Players. Immersing myself in a play for the first time in years, I met wonderful people some I now consider good friends. A few years later, Wesley House Players led me to Dubbo Filmmakers and my first short film. Growing up ethnic in the 70s, filmmaking seemed like a pipe dream. But this group of clever, creative, accomplished people welcomed me and encouraged me to finally make films. It's never too late. Creative and community connections are vital to our mental health and well-being. It's what makes Dubbo so livable. But finding affordable, accessible spaces to meet, create and share has become harder. When the bowling club came under council control, the creative community was excited. This could finally be the place. Within only a few days, a proposal called the Greens Collective developed, with interest from 15 groups and small businesses. Our vision was a thriving, collaborative, creative community hub, open to cooperation with other groups, including sporting groups. The Greens Collective proposal aligns with all 4 elements of the quadruple bottom line in the Towards 2040 Community Strategic Plan and addresses 20 key strategies in the Spark Cultural Plan. The Spark Plan talks about making art visible. Activating the Greens as a home for multiple creative organisations will increase the visibility and physical presence of arts and culture in Dubbo, fostering greater community awareness and participation. It will allow people, like me, to find their people and opportunities. Dubbo does sport exceptionally well, and as a parent, I'm grateful for it. Sport was an integral part of my son's social and sensory therapy. But let's look at the outcomes listed on the report before you. The lifestyle and social needs of the community are supported. A variety of youth activities and entertainment is available. Our community has access to a diverse range of recreational opportunities. Unique recreation and open space facilities are available. The facilities Dubbo lacks in meeting those outcomes are those that enable art, culture and creativity. I spent years working with young people mainstream schools didn't want, kids facing housing instability, substance misuse, complex trauma. Do you know the times we were most united? When we were singing along together to a banger on YouTube, 60 hurting young people with a handful of crazy teachers singing terribly and joyfully at the top of our lungs. Art and culture is not just for the few. It's a way to bring people together, to heal and to connect. When you consider the future of the Greens for the next 2 years, think about the possibilities of a creative community hub. It's a chance to fill the gap we have in supporting local artists, makers, and our broader community. Art is the bridge between our hearts and minds, creating spaces where everyone belongs. Thank you. It's an apology, but is that right? Yeah, Jackson apology.
Kelly Jenner.
Thank you, Madam Chair and councillors. My name is Kelly Jenner and I'm here to discuss the future use of the Greens. I have received a Dubbo Day Award for my community volunteering, organised the 2024 Volunteer Expo and also previously named Dubbo Cultural Person of the Year. I mention these things to show that I am embedded into the Dubbo community and acutely aware of community groups and volunteer needs, particularly in the creative and cultural space. The Greens is currently leased to Rugby New South Wales less than market value. One of the options in the report is to renew that lease for a further 2 years. When the original lease was granted, it was publicly declared it was for a maximum of 2 years. That term has now expired. I acknowledge the good work that Rugby New South Wales are doing and have personally formed good relationships with them. But the most equitable decision for the future use is to put out an expression of interest for locally based not-for-profits to activate the space for the community. I have spoken to many creative and cultural organisations this week, including Orascon, who would love to partner together and make the Greens into a creative and cultural hub. Imagine one central space that could host a cross-cultural festival, our annual music, writing and film festivals, Dream Festival, night markets, outdoor performances and so much more, even possibly Australia Day events, which would be a perfect place to have your outdoor vendors and indoor space. The Greens could also serve as a permanent central home to the 24 creative and cultural groups with no place to call home, a space for meetings, storage, rehearsals, creation, collaboration and connection. The Greens would become a hive of activity day and night with built-in wet weather contingencies. Councillors, I'm not asking you just to give us the Greens. I'm asking you to give the creative and cultural community a chance to submit an expression of interest to show you how we plan to create a sustainable, accessible and thriving hub for all of the community to utilise. Please consider voting to put the Greens out to expression of interest for local grassroots not-for-profit organisations. I emphasise the phrasing of local grassroots not-for-profit organisations. Rugby New South Wales and their foundation arm are technically a not-for-profit, but they are a state-based organisation delivering programs outside of our LGA that can afford to pay 7 full-time staff. They don't need to access community resources at a subsidised rate. The 24 Dubbo-based and governed volunteer groups do need a permanent home. It may be at a subsidised rate, but the visitors attracted to the unique workshops, events and festivals would more than make up for this in visitor economic injection, which we have heard tonight is valued at $320 per person per night. Please give the community a chance to activate the Greens into a thriving, creative and cultural hotspot. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms Jenner. This item requires a decision of council. Does anyone have an alternative motion? Councillor Shibley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an alternative motion for this CSC 24/49, option B. Number 1, the council undertake an expression of interest process for a 2 years lease of the Greens. Number 2, that a report be provided to council on the outcome and final endorsement. Thank you.
Did I get that moved? Yep. Yep. Could someone move that, please? And second? Thank you. Okay. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna speak. Firstly, I would like to thank Ms. Jenna and Ms. Erifil came here, and I can see community groups are here. I strongly support like this motion. Definitely, this time we would like to hear from the community, and as previously my fellow councillor has mentioned, we need to listen to the community, and I think this motion will be fair chance for every community groups to put their EOI through this process, and then my fellow councillor can determine the best option. But I think we need to listen to the community, and I would like to make sure this green be using as an effective way, so that community can get a best outcome, best benefit from that green space. Thank you.
I too would like to endorse the motion before council. I note and congratulate the arts community for turning out tonight in such form and force. And I note that the community isn't asking for a free ride. They are simply asking for a chance at, if you'll pardon the terrible pun, a level of playing field. Rugby does run through my own family's veins. However, so do the arts and creativity. And I think Erifili Davis touched on it quite poignantly when she said that it's about livability. You know, all those people that we are encouraging to come to Dubbo, we can get them here, but if there's nothing to keep them here in terms of creative outlets, a creative community, without the arts, without those cultural offerings, they're not staying. And so there's a lovely synergy with the Greens, with our beautiful Western Plains Cultural Centre, and the use of the community spaces there. I would encourage my fellow councillors to support the motion to offer call for expressions of interest for the 2-year lease, particularly given the passion with which the cultural community in Dubbo has come together and the success that those groups have found. And I would urge those community groups to keep fighting the good fight, and to make their voices heard, and if the figures stack up, and there's no guarantees, but if the figures stack up, then to come together and work together for the outcomes that will benefit the entire community. So yes, I thoroughly endorse and recommend this to my fellow councillors.
Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two things. I have a comment and a question. The comment is, I too want to thank Erifili and Kelly, or I should say Mrs. Davis and Miss Jenna. That was beautiful, your insight and what you shared. I actually just felt like you took me on a journey, and I really appreciate what you shared tonight, so thank you. I'm very much in favour of this amended motion so that it goes out to EOI, so that there is a very transparent and a fair opportunity for people to submit an expression of interest. I think it's a really good move for Dubbo Regional Council. So I will certainly be supporting it. My question is, will Dubbo Regional Council explore or support consortiums?
Pass to the CEO.
Yeah, certainly there's nothing preventing that. It would be a broad brush open EOI. We would, in terms of assessing it, we haven't defined that depending on what council chose, because you could have chosen demolition, which would make a simple EOI process. Is community outcomes, potential lease fees that they would be paid, that I recommend they could pay, and that would come into a subsequent report for council that could so determine what they choose and I guess what they prioritise in that decision. So there would be nothing preventing a consortium. There would, you probably need to see evidence of those people's commitment to be a part of that consortium, I would suggest, as part of the EOI.
Thank you.
Any other questions or debate? Councillor Toynton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too support the idea of an expression of interest to open it up to be fair to anyone who sees that they could be able to use that facility within the community groups. I believe, again, an expression of interest is more fair, it's more competitive, it allows council to make better use of that facility rather than just grant a lease that was, as we've established, the price for that was set so long ago where it was probably either cheap or reasonable back then, but now it's probably, if we look at an EOI, I think we'll get a better value and a better option for anyone to be able to say, let's look at this. So I'll be supporting the option for an EOI.
Thank you. Councillor Shibley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, then there is a need to be some repair and maintenance, I believe, on that building. So is that the newcomer, who would be the new coming group or whoever, are they responsible for that repair? Thank you.
I'll pass to the CEO.
Before I pass Ms. Bathingthwaite, so there'd be some repairs we'd have to do to make good now, but then from the lease, and that would become the responsibility of the leaseholder. And I probably should point out the 2-year term and why that is a 2-year term, because the building, it's a repurposed bowling club, so whilst it has some functionality, council, with community and the broad brush of community, has done no strategic planning for that site. So even plugging into what some of the public comments were in the forum there, how do you cater for all those needs and use? So that's why there's a 2-year lease. So we could then decide collectively what we can do on that site. There's the bowling greens there and what have you. It's a large site if you take that into consideration. And then also we need that time for a funding strategy as well. That's me probably going above and beyond the answer to your question, but I just want to explain that in terms of the lease conditions as well, the 2 years and why.
Thank you. You answered my next question already.
Any other questions or debate? Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of questions with regards to the AOI. Obviously, the one that was conducted there back in 2022, I think it was a relatively short AOI just due to some deadlines and timelines we had to meet. And obviously, rugby were the successful for bidders on that one. And look, I'm sure if you jump on the website, you'll be able to see some of the amazing outcomes they've been able to achieve using Dubbo as a base. I know there's a number of staff that were employed, as was commented by the girls who've done a wonderful job, by the way, of speaking there tonight. But they've changed the lives of a lot of young kids in the western areas of town, of Dubbo and in the region, just through some of the programs they've been able to deliver that they may not have been able to deliver if they weren't based in Dubbo. And that has far-reaching implications for not only Dubbo, but those areas out west. But so my question is, a long way around, is the last one was only short AOI. What sort of timeframes are we talking? What sort of deadlines do we have with respect to this? So we know some of these are groups that are interested, what sort of timeframes they've got to prepare themselves.
I'll just pass to Ms. Bathingthwaite.
Yes, the timeframes are up to you. We do need to give 30 days notice under the current arrangement with Rugby New South Wales, the current holder of the lease. So that they could stay technically past the December date and continue on. We just need to give them that 30 days notice. So they potentially could stay in the building so we have an occupancy in the building until that EOI process has been complete.
Any other questions or debate? Would the mover like a right of reply? No? Any more? Councillor Wright, did you want a question? Sorry, no?
Thanks, Madam Chair. That's okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll start the voting. Councillor Toynton, yours hasn't come through.
Yours hasn't either, actually. Yeah, yours too. Sometimes double pumps hit yours again.
Hmm.
Yours went funny.
And
That's a lot.
Matt. Done. That's weird. Okay. Declare the voting closed. And the motion is carried. Item CSC 24/50, Office of Local Government Reform, Proposal for Code of Conduct and Meeting Practices. Can I have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Chief Executive Officer? Thank you, Councillor Butler. And seconded, Councillor Wright. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Butler?
Yes, I think the report showed a good way forward. Well, let me start backtrack a bit. It highlighted some deficiencies in the treatment of the code of conduct and how would you call it, the investigation of different complaints. And I think that it has proposed some good alternatives or future ways forward that are different to the current regimen. In particular, I'd like to mention that the Privileges Committee was I believe, a better way of assessing a complaint than the previous referral to the government minister, I think it was, in the case in previous times. And then you would, as they pointed out, you would have a bureaucrat effectively in judgment on an electedly democratic candidate. So yes, I think the motion before us, or the bill, has quite a lot of positives, and I hope it can be implemented at some point.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any questions or debate? Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, this is a great report. Look, the frivolous use of codes of conduct against councillors is something that I know the previous council had some interest in, and I think they put a motion forward to the New South Wales Local Government Conference with respect to addressing the frivolous use of codes of conduct against councillors by members of the public. So certainly streamlining this process and probably taking it out of the hands of council to a point is something to be looked at and applauded. The one that concerns me, though, is with respect to some of the meetings around, I suppose, they're more briefings, I guess, around especially some very, very technical topics which councillors need to deal with. To remove councillors or council's option to be able to use those workshops and pre-meeting briefings as opportunities for councillors to really get their head around some complex matters. Look, to remove those from I suppose, from council's hands to not be able to run them anymore is a massive negative. And I said, I know this is my second term as a councillor, and there's some very, very complex issues that I would have struggled to get my head around without the benefit of those workshops and pre-meeting briefings. So I know that Dubbo Regional Council is very much supportive of continuing those. So hoping that with that report that goes to the Office of Local Government, that we continue to push for those meetings to remain in place. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other questions or debate? Councillor Butler, would you like a right of reply?
Yeah, I might just inquire then to Councillor Wright's point, which was a very good one, I believe. This briefing, or the threat, shall we say, to the removal of the briefing, is that somehow in this submission that we're making? Is that being addressed? Is that being requested, or how are we putting this?
I'll pass to the CEO.
Yeah, thanks.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, certainly we believe it is the way that Dubbo Regional Council, they have value, and there's no undermining of the democratic process, because I would argue that we do it well. That includes the pre-meeting briefing, where you'll hear me say that we don't do debates. It's about clarification and questions so that you can have an informed debate in the public chamber. So that's how we use them. And what I've heard from councils thus far is that has value. The other item would be workshops are often held with councils to do a really deep dive in complex matters before you have a decision go to you, because again, it's to how to have an informed debate and informed decision making if the legislation is poorly structured, they could be outlawed. So that's certainly the focus of part of our submission to make sure we keep the positives, acknowledge some of the corruption risks that have occurred in Sydney-based councils to do with planning matters that have been behind closed doors. So I think it's fair enough to concede that, okay, that's a risk that's been realised, I'd suggest, well, not in regional communities, only in Sydney thus far. So I think acknowledge that in the submission. So yes, don't have planning discussions in pre-meeting briefings or workshops, but then for other matters, it'll be a recommendation from our report and by the governance team that we continue those as WA Regional Council.
Any other questions or debate? I'll just open the voting now. Yeah, I'll open the voting now. I'll close the voting. I declare the motion carried. I'm getting better at that. Okay. Oh God, what's this?
Just read it. Just read through it.
Right. The next item for consideration is deemed to be confidential. Under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next item, being item CSC 24/51, has been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of Council. Can I now have someone move us into confidential session to deal with the confidential items? Seconded by, thank you. We have no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Oh, they've all gone. Okay. I don't have to worry about that either. Do I? Do I still have to read that bit out?
Just finish reading that one. But then,
Okay. We have had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. And then we'll just move to the vote. Oh. Richard Ivey and Shipley.
close the vote. It's not really-
Okay. I'm going to close the vote. I declare the motion carried and we'll move into a closed session, the time being 7:49 p.m. that. Oh, thank God. I now ask the Governance Officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. No, just did that. There are no further items for consideration of the Corporate Services Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:02 p.m. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance.